Welcome back to our Franchise Fundamental series where we go through what franchising is and ultimately help you determine if it's right for your next business investment. This is video 8 of our 10-part series, and in this video we're going to be going through what support a franchisor gives to its franchisees. So this is the whole point of why you're buying a franchise instead of going and starting a business on your own. A franchise at its core is a business relationship where you're working under a known brand and you're leveraging that brand's systems, training, and support. So those are the 3 pillars that the franchisor is offering you in terms of what business advantage you have instead of going on your own. So in this video, we're going to go through what this support looks like and ultimately see if this is something that you see as beneficial. So the first piece that a franchisor is going to offer a franchisee in terms of support is the initial training. So this is going to vary depending on what brand you're working with, but in general, training consists of a 1-week long crash course at the franchisor's headquarters. In that week, which is partially going to be classroom time where you're learning from a slide deck, and the other part being in the field training where they'll actually take you out to maybe a local franchisee and see exactly what their business looks like, but it is a full 40-hour week of training. So within that training, they're going to be going top to bottom through the entire business and exactly how they're going to get you started and get off the ground. So they're going to go through things like how do we hire our first employees? How do we train them? You're going to get training on how the business model works. So in the application of, say, a painting franchise where the franchisee is never expected to be a painter, they're still going to have training on how painting works. Not so that you can hold a brush, but more so you can understand the language that the painters speak, B, the process of how it works, but most importantly, C, how to estimate. So with the service-based business, yes, they're going to train you on painting, but it's not for you to be a painter. It's for you to understand the process, speak the language, and then of course, give accurate estimates. Now, in terms of marketing, you're going to learn the ins and outs of what the franchisor's marketing plan is. 99% of all franchisors are going to have a pre-built out marketing campaign, no matter what platform it's on, social, Google, radio, TV. Any marketing that's applicable to that business, the franchisor is going to explain to you how it's going to work, and you're going to figure out how to read the marketing feedback in terms of number of leads, ad spend, things of that nature, and really analyze what's working and what's not. Now, in addition to that, if your business or franchise business is going to require any sort of guerrilla marketing, whether that's networking events, door hangers, being out in the public to some capacity, they're going to go through exactly handle those events. So for franchises that really leverage local trade shows in order to showcase their services, they're going to show you exactly how you should act during that trade show. They're going to show you what sort of novel, gimmicky products you should have on the table to gauge or generate attention to get to talk to people. So they're going to go through all that in terms of a marketing sense. And they're also going to show you how to run your business by the numbers, because ultimately a business that's run by the numbers is able to be measured, improved, and grown. So you need to understand how the business looks on a numerical basis, and they're going to go through that full training in the initial week that you're at corporate headquarters in order to get you up to par with that information. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, how am I going to get all the information to run this business done in a week? It's just the initial training. They're trying to cram as much in as possible to catch you up to speed quickly. They're still going to have long-term training, and you're not expected to remember everything during this initial training period. It's just to get you exposed and acclimated on a very superficial basis to what their business is going to entail as you get started and then ultimately grow. So you don't have to worry about having everything memorized from this single training. There's going to be ongoing training done. And this should go without saying, but training is a very good time to ask questions. They're going to tell you this, but there's no dumb question, especially when it comes time to you understanding your own business. So as you're going through the initial training, yes, know that you have the support later on to touch up on this stuff, but you're there. Leverage the time that you have at corporate and ask any question that you might need the answer to or might think you need the answer to, because you'd rather ask it early than sit on it and realize you should have asked it a couple months down the line. The second way that a franchisor supports its franchisees is through their marketing and sales support. So this goes beyond the initial training when you're going to understand what marketing plans they're running. The franchisor is going to be responsible on a long-term basis to make sure they stay ahead of marketing trends. Because all it takes is one iOS update where you can't do the same cookie tracking that you could before, and that could uproot an entire marketing strategy. So understand that while you are going to be following the franchisor's marketing system that you learned, it's going to change over time. And more specifically for your market, as you actually get involved in the business and you start to test out these marketing strategies, you'll probably find that there's one or two that work better in your market for whatever reason. When you talk with your franchisor, which you will on a weekly basis for the most part, you want to communicate that messaging to them because they're going to be able to better cater the marketing strategy for your local market based on the data they have provided. But in general, as you are growing in your business, as time is moving forward, your franchisor is going to be keeping a keen eye on what marketing is working and where the marketing realm is moving towards to help keep you above the curve and not have to play catch up. Now, in addition to this, they're going to provide an immense amount of sales support. So for service-based businesses, this is extremely important because ultimately for the vast majority of services, homeowners don't care who does the job as long as they show up on time and they get the job done well. They don't care if it's painter A, B, or C or mover A, B, or C. All they care about is that somebody can get the job done. There's not as much brand loyalty. This is why sales becomes vitally important because, I mean, I'm sure you know if you own a home or if you've ever had any service done, what's your process look like no matter what it is? You need plumbing work, you need painting work, you need yard work. You pick up your phone, you type in insert service near me, painting near me, moving near me, lawn care near me, and you just touch the first one that pops up and you give them a ring or you fill out a form. And if they don't answer in a timely manner, aka they don't answer on the first initial phone call, you go back to Google and you hit the second one and you call again. You just do that until you get somebody on the phone quickly because we are immediate feedback type of people. We want things immediately, instant gratification. So you're going to call until you get someone on the phone to get your first estimate. With service-based businesses specifically, they more than likely will have a national call center. A lot of them have a 24/7 national call center where any time of day, any day of the year, if a lead hits your ad and picks up the phone and dials it, it'll be routed to an individual who all they do all day is sell your service. They know your business inside and out from a sales perspective. They say the same conversations over and over again. And the most important piece is they always pick up the phone. So that is a huge support system that a franchisor is going to offer their franchisees, specifically in the home service space or service space in general. But that sales center, that national call center is going to be vitally important. So just as a quick side note, if you are getting into an industry where customers are going to be calling and asking for quotes in any capacity, ask your franchisor about their call center, see if it's 24/7, see if it's in the US or if it's overseas. Not that that necessarily matters, but it's good for you to know where your calls are going. In addition to that, I would recommend testing out the call center. Ask, can you make a phone call to the call center just to understand what that process looks like. The franchisor is more than likely going to have you go through that anyway, but you definitely want to know what their call center sounds like when a lead would phone in. So pay attention to that, but do know that for service-based businesses, that is a huge piece in terms of sales support and having that national call center. So this leads us into our third pillar of support, which is ongoing operational support. So just I had mentioned when we talked about the initial training, that's a crash course to really get you up to speed as quickly as possible. But inevitably, as you actually are existing in business and you're experiencing what it's like, there's going to be situations that come up that you either don't know how to handle or you forgot what they said in training on how to handle it. Maybe they didn't even go over that specific situation. That's where the franchisor is already going to have that somewhat handled by having weekly coaching calls with a dedicated franchise coach. So the vast majority of good franchise brands out there are going to give you a dedicated franchise coach who's going to be working with you primarily in the first 3 to 6 months heavily, and then it kind of tailors off from there. And then you're not going to want a phone call every single week once you get your feet under you and actually get comfortable with the regular business activities. But in the first 3 to 6 months, every single week, you're going to have a dedicated call with your franchise coach to go over anything that you're experiencing that you need help with. So whether it's training employees, figuring out how to get the phone to ring, dealing with any sort of service issues, if that's the space you're in, you have that call already built in. Now, for the majority of these franchise coaches, you're going to be able to call them or contact them in addition to that dedicated call, but you at least have that baked in. Every single week, you have a check-in with somebody who's going to be helping you with the specific issues that you're facing. On top of that, franchisors will often have quarterly or somewhat periodic trainings on maybe a system change that's been done. So if they just upgraded the software and the UI is a little bit different, the user interface isn't exactly the same as how it was before, they're absolutely going to have a full training on exactly how to operate this new software to get you up to speed as quickly as possible. They understand that when they make a change, they are going to be responsible for dozens, if not hundreds, of people who are going to have to learn this as well. So when a franchisor is unveiling an update or a new software, they're going to prep accordingly to make sure when the inevitable call comes in, hey, I don't know how to get to this button, or I can't figure out how to close a deal out with the system, there you'll have that all ironed out. So there's going to be continual support no matter where you're at in your franchise business, whether you're just starting, you've been in business for 3 years, or you're a 10-year vet. You're going to have ongoing support in a multitude of capacities. The fourth pillar of support is software and technology. Now, this is something that I think most people underestimate or undervalue as they're thinking about a franchise business, because it's not something that you would ever think about until you realize how powerful it is. Now, the main way that a franchisor is going to help you through software and technology is usually through a KPI dashboard. So a dashboard that comes up that basically summarizes your entire business on a single screen with dials and widgets. So the important part about that is that with any successful business, you need to be able to track and measure so you can improve. So with the softwares that these franchisors have, they might cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to integrate in. That's one of the benefits of being a franchisee, is that you don't have to have that to have access to it. So the franchisor is able to spend a ton more money on business tools that you would never have access to on your own, and that is going to be a huge level of support for you as you're trying to track and grow your business. And the fifth pillar is the community that you've entered. When you enter into a franchise system, you definitely have support from the corporate level. That's assumed. But you also have support by your other franchisees. And there's some franchise systems that actually have dedicated groups of franchisees that they build together to allow them to communicate and trade ideas and best practices to see how can we help one another. Because ultimately, when you're in a franchise system, you need to lean on others for support. So there's a common brotherhood mentality when you join into a franchise system that you're going to need more help in the beginning. But once you have that help and you're able to elevate your business to, whatever point that you want to get it to, there's going to be people that are going to come in under you, and you're going to want to help them as much as you were helped when you were in that position. This also helps when there is a change in the market, such as COVID. The franchisor is only going to be able to provide whatever support they can, because no one's expecting such a crazy, colossal change to your normal day-to-day life. But with the community of franchisees that are within your franchise system, you're able to have more candid conversations with people who are literally doing the exact same business model that you are, just in a different market. So that pooling of resources, that pooling of ideas is something that can be vitally important to not only your growth and success, but the ease in which you can do that. Because if you're going to do it on your own, it's going to take more time and energy and probably some more headaches. But when you're leveraging a group of dozens, if not hundreds of other franchisees, you can get that information a little bit more quickly. You're able to share information. You're able to brainstorm and collectively work together to solve issues that you're facing. So ultimately, that is one of the main levels of support that a franchisor can offer its franchisees, is just through that community network of individuals who are doing the same thing that you are. So how can we maximize the support from the franchise system that you're potentially going to engage in? The first is to Be as communicative as possible. The franchisor cannot help you if they don't know a problem exists. And if you're having an issue with training some of your employees and you don't let them know, there's no way that they can read your mind and understand that's the problem that you're going through. So you have to be communicative. You have to tell them if you're facing an issue, even if it's not a real issue. Just filling your franchise coach in on what's going on can really help them to help you see around the corner for the next potential problem that you're having. Because again, they've done this tons of times in all different markets. They know what to expect, and they really know if you're having an issue in one area, you're probably going to have an issue in this subsequent area because they're very similar. So they're going to be able to help you see around the corner and prevent issues from happening in the future. That, as well as being as engaged in the franchise community, in your franchise community as possible. If you're somebody who really likes to stay on their own and not, interact with other people, when you do have that issue come up, the other franchisees might be less receptive to helping you because they don't really know who you are. But if you are contributing as much as you can with the other franchisees in the system, word's going to get around that you're a really helpful person. And reciprocity, or the law of reciprocity, when people know that you're a helpful source for others, they're going to be more inclined to help you. So stay in communication, good communication with your franchisor, and be engaged in the community that you pay to be a part of. And just a final thought as we talk about franchise support and systems. It's far too common that a franchisee enters into a system and they decide that they might be a little bit smarter than the franchisor and try to do things their own way. It totally defeats the purpose of why you joined a franchise system. And in fact, countless number of times, franchisees have failed because of that. The franchisor built the systems. They've gone through the trials and tribulations to test if this works, to see if that works, and they've refined it to a very easy to follow manual that all you have to do is execute on in order to have a chance of being successful. If you're the type of person that likes to kind of get a framework but then run on your own, don't join a franchise system. It's not going to be a good fit for you. If you're going to go and enter into a franchise system, you're going to make that purchase, commit to the plan. Understand that there might not be the most efficient way to do things in your mind that they're telling you to do, but there's probably a reason behind it. There's a reason why you're not going to max out, a truck in a service-based business on week 2, because they need you to understand what it's like to manage a crew for a couple weeks before you really explode and take on more than you can chew. So I would advise for you to communicate these messages if you think that things can be done a different way, because at the end of the day, franchisors do listen to franchisees. With McDonald's, for instance, the fish fillet and the Big Mac, two of the McRib, iconic pieces of the McDonald's menu were actually created by a franchisee. Corporate didn't come up with those ideas. But the franchisee didn't go rogue and say, I'm going to start selling fish sandwiches with my McDonald's business. No, what they did was they communicated with their franchise coach or with the franchisor after they've had a successful model. They say, hey guys, I'm starting to notice there's a demand for XYZ product. Is this something that we could, beta test in my store and see if it's something we can, move system wide? And if the franchisor thinks it's a good idea, they will absolutely be open to hearing your ideas and testing them out. But the expectation when you start in the business is not, I'm going to kind of just get my feet under me and then I'm going to go, roll my own way. It doesn't work, or at least it's not the most efficient way to work. And that's the reason why you're paying for the franchise system, so that you don't have to do that. So that would be my 2 cents of advice for somebody. If that's typically who you are, you either have to make a decision that you're not going to do that with this business model, or you're just going to go a different route besides franchising. Franchising is not perfect. It's not for everybody. So make that determination before you even engage in conversations with a franchise brand. So if you lasted 8 videos and you're still liking this content, make sure to check out our next video, video 9. It's going to be about negotiation, specifically with the franchise agreement.